Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for November the 20th. Still waiting for the SiteLock people to clear the website of all the viruses. Been on the phone with them constantly, and it's just a backlog of requests and taking time to get it done. Nothing we can do about it, but it gives everyone else an opportunity to see the power of trading the MBI on a daily basis here. And from our standpoint, it was back over here last week. We started selling puts, wanting to acquire shares into our portfolio setups because we were anticipating a significant bounce back from extreme oversold when it happened. We also knew that once we got this oversold that it wasn't going to last long, and I gave you the projection between 20 and 30 points. So we ended up plus 25-ish. Okay, fine. We might move a little. Well, if you look at the cash index, it was actually plus 27. I was thinking futures, but either way, it doesn't really matter. Some people say, well, how do you make those assessments? Well, that gets into some of the other algorithms we have, but that's not relevant as much as, fine, we knew that we expected it. This is why I was having us sell calls into any up moves. Okay, that was just basically what we wanted to do. Now, we can talk about this, and we'll do it a little bit later, the ratio psi that we mentioned before, where when you move above this line, before that downtrend ends, we would need to move back below it, and then it's not until we pop back up above this magenta line is the short downtrend over. So this actually will provide a secondary short entry for those people who are in a swing short from the red trend. So not the type of rally to be terrified of if you were short this overall setup. Decent from the shakeout. We should get inside of our negative 12 in that, and that will be fine. No objections to any of those things. Again, the support and resistance guys, as well as the channel drawers, we're all looking for continuation to the downside, that it was all just going that way. And then there's no real answer why we broke this support, this one resistance, this didn't hold, that resistance did hold. And they can make up stories for all the different reasons as to why. They're interesting because you get pauses at them here and there because there's either extra supply sometimes, or there's more selling. But by no means can you make a rational trade off of those. We talked about this one, and this is why it's enlarged down here, the up-down power. We looked at the relationship between these, and we started here when we were over 80%. We were still in the mid-70s the other day, and that's where we got the clear idea that we were going to bounce off of the oversold setup that had been created. That shorts overplayed themselves, as they always do, and we go over this all the time, and you get the exact bounce back. And most of this is a dramatic amount of short covering because of the gap in a lot of cases, particularly in the SPY, and then they're forced to have to pay higher, and you just have fewer sellers because they want to let that momentum continue itself to the upside. So fortunately, I don't have to rush our video because YouTube has granted me the ability to go much longer from a time frame. Not that I plan to abuse that, but it's always worth noting so that you don't have to be concerned that this is going to end all of a sudden on you. We had 1380's upside projection, broke past that, moved, continuing on. That can happen both to downside, upside, not a big surprise. 1396 is the new upside with 1364, and this all trailed too from our 2020 that we talked about before. And now you're getting close to a point where MACD buyers are actually going to be interested in this setup and may even get a buy, and that would be the logical point that I would expect the selling to start taking place for the second wave of the short, because I know, and I get yelled at for it all the time, but as soon as they're MACD buyers, we're going to want to sell into MACD buyers because that's just what the professionals do. That's nothing else you can say about it. Now, as far as beauty goes, gosh, we got put at the 55s. Our cost basis 54.20. I wanted to sell on a gap higher. The 55s, well, gapped all the way to 56. Now, you could have sold them, obviously, for that huge differential, or you could have moved to strike higher, or when you have this significant a move, you could have just sold them above 56 and been fine with it and trailed that higher for the day. Any of those setups was fine, but selling the call just as good, because there's still a possibility we could drip down below. They're not likely to get back down to the 55 at this particular point, but you just have to make those kind of sound assessments. I mean, you opened at 56, so you would have already been a full dollar in the money trying to sell those calls. But again, points out, we got 85 cents for last week. We're going to get well over $1 for this week, and that's how you make $1 a week. Multiply it by the number of shares you're trading, and that's why we do the options on a weekly basis with some of these setups. You knew I liked gold. You knew I liked it from here. You knew we liked it from down below. When at first we were concerned it got a little overbought, we were expecting to retrace. So none of this is like, some people act like this was some kind of news-driven event. There was nothing news-driven about any of what we saw coming. You can make up whatever headline you want, fine. If it suits you, then great. If you believe the different articles that come through on the news, then you're trading a different way than I do, and you might need to look at that, because it's probably not doing as well as it should. Now, USO, again, we wanted to sell 32s on the way up, so you could have gotten an easy 85 cents for those. So, fantastic with that setup. You can see it's already gotten overbought. Still in red trend. That's never a positive thing. Keep that in mind. Very close to going green trend, so that could turn it around, but I'm still fine with us selling the 32s because, again, we've been selling 32 puts, 32 calls. We've been doing it week after week. We're just going to keep collecting on it, and it lowers the original cost basis on the shares that we do have, which in turn, when we get to a point where we've made that step back from the overall market and we've had our next run, we'll look to have ourselves a protective put and buy it much further out in time and be able to trade calls inside of it with zero risk. So just keep doing the same things. CLF, again, this is exactly why I point out that I wanted to sell the calls. We were looking for CLF. I wanted to get at least 70 cents on a move back up over. You could have got easy 90 from the way it gapped up. That was what the open price was. So there is a reason why we do what we do. And sure enough, it retraced all that, actually went down below. You got new fractals, though. Gives you orange dot as well as yellow, so that's positive from that standpoint. Even those setups, what did they give us? A target of 37, 35. So that's reasonable. We're happy with that from the CLF standpoint. Not expecting any huge move, particularly right in this kind of flat zone. You would need to come back up and see this turn green before we're going to likely see any significant thing, or at least something about the economy that there's been some kind of turn, and I just don't see that likely to happen before any kind of year-end. Then people all want to ask me about the fiscal cliff and what my opinion is. Well, I can give you my opinion. It's irrelevant to what traders with money are doing. And while everyone was selling into a manic move, there were a lot of guys buying into that setup, and you're seeing the effect of it. Now, X, we wanted to do the exact same thing with X. The only problem was we didn't get put the shares. So it was unfortunate, but we went ahead and we did sell those same 20 puts. And not likely to get those put to us at this particular point. So, I mean, we'll get to keep that 40. I say that if you get down to about 2-3 cents, it's worth going ahead and buying it back and collecting the 40 cents or around 39 cents of the 42 that we got for selling those puts. And the reason we sell those puts is because you get that high premium in this kind of an exacerbated move that is likely to reverse, and then those become just a nascent thought in people's minds, like, oh, really? You could have sold those? Yeah, of course. And we still get to keep the shares we have and reduce the cost basis, which is already, below 15 and dropping. WLT continues to be our only sore loser. We didn't get enough of a bounce. Would have liked to have sold 32.50s is what the whole hope was on those, but we wanted to get enough money to make it worthwhile. Having sold those, we got 85 cents. So cost base was still down in the 31.60 range, and we definitely want to be on the plus side of that. And that's going to take some time to work out. Does get a catfish long as well as an extreme fractal. And for those who haven't seen those, let me slide this over real quick, and you can kind of look at how that looks there, and you can see all the different ones. So it had a series buy, a real pivot, catfish long, extreme fractal. So when you talk about ducks in a row, yeah, you can't see all those dots because they're plotted right on top of each other for the stops that they produce. But that's a significant number of very specific types of buyers under very different circumstances. None of these are even remotely close to each other. And when you see that long a list of buyers who want to get in to the setup, likely to see a pretty decent pop from it. So we'll look for that from WLT. let's go over a couple of these. I put like BA up here, right here. It was coming down. People were talking about it was going to fall apart. And it was interesting because I had mentioned that it was time to short right up here, looking for this magenta retrace. We got the gray dot, confirmed that setup, and I posted it many times. We then dropped, and then we got this. Well, and I warned everyone at this particular point. Well, and you can go to StockTwits and just go to our charts under TradeTheMBI, and you'll see I posted the lovely pictures of all the different numbers going back to like 22, and all of the spikes where it would come down and then boom, pop back up. So no shock there. In fact, you get a new orange dot here, which gives 73.88 as upside, which is beyond the 73.04. So potential that that's even going to go further. I know I'd put up Caterpillar as another one, and that here had GAM, MBI, projected all the way back around there, and that's pretty close with where the new buy setup from the Extreme Fractal Catfish right there in the blue and the red. I can't do that on price. You gotta click one of the histograms to slide over. There you go. So easy to see that. Pretty straightforward stuff right there. Futures from an ES standpoint, you can see that that is the long setup. Here was what I was talking about from the ratio psi. Now you've dipped down below here. You're looking for this yellow line to move back up there. That's something you want to keep an eye out as it takes place. And you know what? If we move, here is the automation for all the dots, so you can look for that. They're all in there. I added Visa, MasterCard. You can always drop me an email if there's any additional high players that you'd like me to put up there. No problem. I can show you. This is what the emails look like all day long. In fact, they're still coming in from the ES even in the after hours, and so all day. If I just click and scroll, you can see how many there were. What was my total? I have to slide it down to see. 107. So 107 signals just for these under the different time frames, because 15 minute, 78 minute, 10 minute, all of them had it. Thought I'd show you this one since we'd been talking about Apple and no signals. Here's the view of the performance report for Apple. 78% win rate, 4.19 profit factor, puts in a new buy setup here at this close of 465.73. However, don't forget that shakeout, negative 27. You're going to get a small pop from this. It's going to come back. So from this setup, when we look at this kind of thing, even from an ATR, you would want to look for a 1/3 retrace to make your buy. So don't be chasing something to the long side. It's not necessary. There's going to be plenty of pullback in the future on any and all of these things to go ahead and make additional trades. So as always, as soon as I get the update from the site that everything's good to go, I will let all of you know. Otherwise, just bear with me, and we'll keep making great trades in the interim. Trade well.